Hello, everyone. Welcome to the next session of the PPM Summit. So we have an exciting panel with us, very experienced people, professionals from the world of pharma and biotech. So let me present you the speakers first. So we have Patrick Kamba. Patrick is a passionate leader of project managers contributing to vaccines development. Patrick worked as project director in vaccines development, including GSK and Janssen. And I know that he has been working on a COVID project as well. So we'll know more about it during the panel. We have also in the panel Klemen Spaninger. Klemen is pharmaceutical professional with international experience with expertise in global project management, technical and biologics development, currently heading project management office, PMO of Fresenius Kabi, leading cross-functional global international teams and being responsible for development and implementation of biosimilar development strategies for projects in development, clinical and commercial stage. So welcome, Klemen. Welcome, Daniela. Daniela Braun is Senior Director, Project Management for Celonic Group out of Switzerland. Celonic is a CDMO providing comprehensive GMP development and manufacturing services for new biological entities and biosimilars worldwide, and cell therapy and gene-associated services worldwide. And we also have Matthew Kokkonen. Matthew is Director of Portfolio and Governance with CSL Behring, where he drives deployment of leading PPM practice across CSL and acts as Enterprise Sub-Process Lead, SPL, for assigned process areas like demand management, benefits management, portfolio management. So welcome, Matthew. And we also have Simon Dodds, whom you saw yesterday. So Simon is an experienced international project and portfolio leader, successful risk and continuity manager, trusted strategic advisor, and pragmatic problem solver. He translates complex into understandable and actionable, and he's fascinated by how lessons from history and psychology can be applied to everyday life. So with these introductions, I welcome my prestigious panel with so much of wisdom, and we will be talking about the PMO's first 100 days in the digital era. If you have questions, please send them in the chat, and we'll start with the prepared questions, and then we'll be taking up the audience questions as well. So the first question for the panel: what is the typical background and experience of PMO manager? Daniela, would you like to start?
What is the typical background of a PMO manager? That's a very good question. In terms of the background can be very diverse. So especially if you look at a PMO manager at Celonic, we might be slightly different to other companies as we are very much involved in technical questions. So we always look into a background of technical education. Obviously also experience in having managed projects for a while and understanding the high-level requirements for projects is very important here. So I would say the requirement for a PMO manager can differ depending on the company or the industry you're working in.
Thank you, Daniela. Klemen, would you like to continue on these ideas?
Sure, no, I fully agree with what Daniela already said. So at least in biotech and pharma, it's a great advantage if you know the background, if you know the technology, if you know the processes. So I think that in many organizations where I was, actually the PMs or the PLs came either from different areas or of development, or they already had the previous experience in developing a pharma product. So I think that that's a great advantage. I have to say, I also saw one or two PMs that came from completely different field, like finance and so on. And of course, they got onboarded very fast, but I think that's also a part of the individual drive, whether there's someone that is very interested in the topic and gets, also in his free time, I would say, educated on the specific thing. Yeah.
Absolutely, I agree. And actually, the first time I was working on a pharma project, and actually it was before that, I had absolutely no pharma experience. So I had to go through what you're describing. So I had to go. I mean, I was meeting every manager. Like I would go and meet the validation expert, and I would really make them go through what validation is. I would meet the GMP team and I would go through all their documentation, but not only documentation, I would discuss with the team after the meetings, like over a coffee, so that they could explain me how their day looks like. So all that, I was not asked to do it, but I was deeply interested in it. And that's why, like, I'm still in the pharma, and I think that's the reason. So I absolutely agree. Patrick, would you like to add your ideas to this?
Thank you, Mithun, to everything that has been said so far. I would say build on that by saying that being a former PM, program manager, or even portfolio manager is definitely helping you understand, I would say, quicker the job, and the fact that you would have done it in the past, like technical, as Daniela was saying, that would help you because you would have so many other items to manage, I would say, as a manager. So stakeholder engagement and etc. But also, I would say, leading your team. So I fully agree with what has been said so far.
Thank you, Patrick. Matthew, would you like to continue?
Yes, my experience is very similar. We see a lot of diverse backgrounds coming into the PMO. Certainly it's a lot of folks who have been starting as project coordinators, working their way up the ranks. In other cases, we see folks who are kind of tired of what they've been doing for a long time. I mean, I've seen bench scientists, tell their management, I'm tired of this. I want to get a broader perspective. I want to get some exposure. And I think the PMO offers folks who have, deep expertise in a single area an opportunity, if they've got the right perspectives, to parlay that into something that can really be a next step in their career, connecting them outside of their space to new stakeholders, new ways of working and perspective that can be very exciting.
Thank you. Absolutely agree. And I am also mentoring one professional, experienced professional based in Germany, and she is exactly going through it right now. She has been working for almost between 12 and 15 years on quality. So always product management, but product management focused on quality. And she's saying like, yes, but now I'm like on my CV, it has been put like a kind of tagged as quality, and she cannot get out of quality, and she wants to do and discover more. And so what I suggest, what I've been working with her on is that she should be using this experience, but then on top of this, she already has done project management because she was project manager on quality initiatives. So probably she could move to a portfolio level where she will be using her background, but on top of that, she would be discovering all other topics. So the idea is not to forget what she has done in the past, so that it also contributes to what she would be doing. But at the same time, she should be able to learn new things, grow, expand her vision, and also keep learning and still stay motivated on her job. So thank you. Simon, would you like to add something to what has been said?
Sure. I think there's a few things that can be put together here. In some cases, deep technical knowledge is very helpful and sometimes necessary. At the same time, at the PMO level, sometimes it doesn't hurt to be lacking in some of the detailed knowledge. It's a safeguard of being caught up in the minutiae of the activities, which is why I think, as said, Klemen, that some people come from other industries and do quite well. And for the person that you're mentoring could possibly benefit in the same way by moving to somewhere outside of pharma where nobody cares what type of thing you did. This ability to, if you can handle something at this level, then it's not a problem. The other big element that I see that's absolutely necessary for running at the PMO level is the soft skills component, being able to communicate with the major stakeholders, to understand what they're after, and to help them. If in many cases major stakeholders can't quite articulate very well themselves what they really want, so being able to help pull that out of them, and that's technical knowledge helps, because sometimes they'll only talk to you if they know that you know everything that you're talking about. Sometimes not. It's really being able to have the discussions with people like this, and to translate this back to inside the PMO.
Thank you, Simon. So let's move to the second question. What is the role of PMO, and what authority and resources they usually have? So I think you can talk in either in an industry perspective or specific to your organization. Daniela, would you like to start?
From my perspective to speak, the role of the PMO is really to have the oversight of all the currently ongoing projects, but also in the upcoming projects, in order to navigate available resources, and also to support steering projects towards the right direction regarding strategy. So because in the project management, actually in the project management team here, that's where also the synergies happen, where we see the synergies between projects, and that's where we also see the responsibility of this team, and I also see my responsibility towards management in order to support new upcoming projects with the lessons learned from already delivered projects.
Absolutely agree. Klemen, would you like to continue?
Yeah, sure. I mean, like Daniela said, maybe the only thing that I would add is that it really depends on the overall company organization, and how to say, the focus and the structure of the organization where you're in. Certain organizations are very much financially driven, so you can see that in PMO there's also quite a heavy thing when it comes to finance, budgeting, and so forth. Certain organizations, this part is maybe not so much in the PMO per se, and the PMO is also focused in strategy, portfolio, and so forth. So it, I think, also depends on the overall organizational structure. But like Daniela said, and I fully agree, it's more or less, I see it as always the hub of the important information that are connected to the project as such. Yeah.
Thank you, Klemen. Patrick, would you like to continue?
Thank you, Mitun. Indeed, the role of the PMO will depend on the, I would say, environment and maturity of the organization, because it could be simply an office of project managers where people are just in way coordinators. They just consolidate data, review some slides, and chase people, and that's it. And on the opposite, you would have a PMO involved in the finance or project budget or preparation, governance, with PMO giving, guidances and tools and etc. on the way to calculate, I would say, project valuation, building plans. So they would have to use and prepare software, propose trainings, and etc. And from what I have seen, I would say in the last organization for which I worked, it was rather close to, working with portfolio, program management, governance, meeting preparation, facilitating decision making. That's what I have seen recently. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Matthew, would you like to add your ideas?
Yes, I agree with all of the previous comments. I think what's important is the PMO needs to aspire to be the most it can be for the organization. It sits at a juncture between all of these different facets of delivering strategic value for an organization. So today it may start off as largely a coordinating body, making sure people get their status reports in, or, doing the basics of process. You might be focused on finance, you might be focused on strategy. What you really should do is try and aspire to be all of these things for the organization, so that you can really address risk, hit strategy, ensure that all facets of your scope, schedule, budget, and resources are all in order. Because unless you get that holistic picture put together, you're really imbalanced in terms of being able to deliver that value through projects. So I always try and challenge the PMO to not accept where they are in the organization, and try and really make that holistic difference across the board.
Absolutely agree, Matthew. Thank you. Simon, would you like to add your ideas on this?
Yeah, I can really only agree that, the PMO, when it's set up, that is a starting point, usually from an administrative point of view. And absolutely right, Matthew, totally agree that it's okay. Now that you've been organized, there was clearly a reason why it was set up that way. Where can you take it? And as touched upon by many of the others, that the PMO should be a connection point where all the important things relevant to it flow together. As for the question about what the resources and authority it has, also, it depends on the nature of the organization, the nature of the reason why the PMO was set up. So the short but potentially glib answer is, it's maybe not necessary to have all the authority and the resources itself, but given the reason that it was set up and the connections that you build with the right people, it's important to have very good working and profitable on both sides relationships with the people who actually do have the authority and the resources, if you want to realize what the PMO was set up to do.
Absolutely agree, Simon, and to everyone. I think today, in my experience, among all the organizations that I have supported, PMO is largely underused. So, not used to the capacity that they could be. For example, a lot of time is used only in the reporting, where actually it should be more proactive, like you said, a strategy alignment. PMOs could be more facilitators, because they could be more mentors, and they could spend more time on mentoring and supporting teams rather than being seen as a project management overhead. They should be really the steerers. I would quote an African proverb: until the lion learns to write, every story will glorify the hunter. So I think we really need to be good at listening, and not just one-sided stories, but we have to listen to the other side of the story. And for that, I think PMOs will play a crucial role. Let me move to the next question. What other responsibilities, so it's quite closely related, what other responsibilities PMO are usually taking? So I'll change the order this time a bit. Let's start with Patrick.
Yes, so additional responsibilities might be resource and capacity management. More specifically, when you have decided at portfolio level what are the projects that should be run, PMO can help also the different functions to be sure that all of those projects can be, I would say, sourced and having assigned the right people. That is one thing that can be done. And as I said before, it can be also about training and development of the project managers, because at the end they might provide some resources for career management also of the PM.
Absolutely agree. Absolutely. Thank you. Matthew, will you continue to share your ideas on this?
Yes, I think that the PMO has the opportunity to be kind of an organizational detective, because they sit at the middle of so many different conversations and processes. They have the opportunity to look and investigate where the organization can grow and mature. For one organization, maybe that's challenging the sacred cows of a finance organization. Perhaps it's around project delivery. It could be around resource management. And there could be upstream or downstream processes that they can also influence as they sit and either provide data or action to or receive from these processes to really take these things to the next level gaining more insights through data or more control through governance. I think the organizational detective role is something that could be really valuable as you think about where to take your PMO next.
May I maybe just add on that already?
Sure, go ahead.
Changing the order again. So because I would just absolutely agree with Matthew on what he just said. So I would not have called it an organizational detective, but that's actually exactly the role where we as a team here at Celonic and the project management team see ourselves. So I think I've already told you about the process landscape, which we work on in Celonic in my last panel discussion last year. So we work with a process landscape where all the processes are interlinked within the company. We have about 12 major business processes, and for this we have process owners who are responsible as compliance owners to ensure adherence to those processes and also continuous improvement of those processes. And here actually project managers take a crucial role, where we are actually process owners of some of those processes, because as Matthew says, we are where the life of the company happens, right? So we actually execute what the company has sold. We Celonic as a service provider at least. But we see all these processes either working with each other or not. So it's our responsibility to make aware about this and come up with suggestions where to improve and make the company a better organization. That's why I absolutely agree with Matthew that the capacity and the knowledge available of the PMO is can be used by far more than only being an observer and reporter, which at least my team is not, but it can be used to really support the whole organization on the various levels. And that knowledge needs to be utilized in order to also take the company to the next leap and also enable next strategic projects.
Absolutely agree. Thank you, Daniela. And I really also think that they can also help in difficult situations, especially you all know that merger and acquisition is like one of the most common things that happen, especially in the pharma and biotech industry. And often companies do due diligence, but it's always partial before the buyout or the selling of the entity. And the due diligence is only done on finance only, but it's never done on the other parts, or partially done on the technology integration, on the integration of people, so the human aspect, or the infrastructure part. And since PMOs are actually, for me, I like to call them as free radicals. Like free radicals, they can move everywhere, and they can actually take the energy, the charge, and they can transfer it to different parts, and that's where to focus the energy. And I think that finally, what restricts organizations from performing is this energy and momentum on the topic, and focused for a short duration of time, and all at the same moment. Everyone should move in that direction. So that is alignment. We are really lacking. So I think PMOs can add to this aspect. Klemen, would you like to add your ideas?
Yeah, sorry. No, I mean, I agree with everything that was said. Maybe just to add, I mean, PMO, at least in my case, we're also involved in complete organizational KPI setup, risk management, profiling, risk management review, like you said, due diligences, but also especially we like to serve our, I call them customers. So every time that maybe they have a question how to proceed with certain things, that we can discuss with them, develop, implement certain processes. I think that that's important. And yeah, overall, like you said, we are everywhere. all the time, and we serve internal and external stakeholders and customers. Yeah.
Absolutely. Simon, would you like to end this question with your thoughts?
Sure. I think there's, in addition to the many good points that were brought up here, looking to the extra responsibilities goes to the idea of what are the things that only a PMO in its setup could do in compared to, well, not having it. So one is, so that's, as we said, was looking at, okay, checking that the resources are all going in the right direction and so on, but then also making sure that the fit is right, but also looking at the sort of risk and decisions that are made either inside the individual projects, and do they line up with each other? This is the sort of thing that isn't really done much at the portfolio level because it's assumed that things are just handled inside of projects. But for a PMO, there has to be a reason why certain projects are put together in a certain group. So the interconnections between them are very important, and seeing what the decisions that were made around it and are they being carried out. And then, as you said, Matthew, sometimes taking it back upstairs and saying, does this is what's going on, this is how this is all working out, does this fit with the wider strategic concept? And as you said, I like that you said quite nicely about that this might mean going after a few sacred cows, but, well, as Mark Twain famously said, sacred cows make the best hamburgers. Sometimes you really got to go for
it. Yeah, absolutely agree. So we have a question from the audience, which I would like to take because our time is running. That comes from Anneline. The position of the PMO in the company structure matters too. Preferably, it's a neutral organization able to collaborate in the same way with all functional departments. Do you agree? Simon, if you want to start this time.
Yeah, absolutely agree. It shouldn't be just a sort of a group for driving some manager's pet projects, which sadly often in large organizations, this is how a PMO is actually run. The impartiality of it is absolutely necessary, so that from all the responsibilities that we all just listed in the previous question, all of them can be tainted in a certain way by political considerations. So being able to challenge given structures, to be able to openly talk about risks and issues that are coming up, neutrality is in many cases absolutely critical. So if it can't be set up in a certain way, at least make sure that you've got good management air cover so that you're allowed as far as possible to operate as if it were completely neutral. Yes.
Thank you, Simon. Matthew, would you like to add to this?
Yeah, I'll say that, I think it's important to be seen as very fair and actively listen to all of the stakeholders. I think sometimes it can be difficult to act truly neutral. And in some cases, there is a political stakeholder group that's actually on to something that is good for the company, that needs to progress. And the PMO sometimes needs to be the action arm of that next step for the organization, even though other groups may not be ready or interested in moving on. So I think that it's important to know when you need to act in a very neutral manner, as well as when you need to be in a position to leverage that centrality and progress the organization, even if that is, not necessarily welcomed by all groups. So I think where I sit today in the organization, there's a lot of efforts to globalize work, break down previous more geographic silos. And so I would see my organization as definitely being politically affiliated with certain strategic outcomes. So not fully impartial, but at the same time working to hear and empathize with the groups that are affected that maybe aren't necessarily yet on board, and do our best to try and help them move with everyone together towards that strategic outcome.
Thank you. Anyone else wants to? I'll speed up a bit because we'll have one more last question before we wind up. So anyone wants to add anything to what has been said on this question? No. So let's move to the last question because we have another panel coming up. So I'll select out of we have a lot of questions which we could not discuss, but I will take the most interesting question. What are the most often mistakes new PMOs make? And Daniela, would you like to start with this question?
What are the biggest mistakes? Good question. I pass on. There are too many mistakes you can do. I wouldn't know which one is the biggest.
Patrick, would you like to continue?
Yes, I will try. So I would say one of the mistake I've seen would be to, not listening to expectation of the others or your stakeholders, meaning that you will start as a PMO and say, I know what you need and let me do it. That is one. And the other one that is in a way connected to that is you run into action, okay? Like we want to set up a new PMO or to revamp the PMO, and you just jump into action. You don't take the time to listen to expectations because you want to satisfy sponsors, customers, and etc. So jumping and I would say executing before planning or thinking. At least these two.
Thank you, Patrick. Matthew, would you like to continue on this?
I think starting off as an order taker is kind of a death move for a PMO. You really kind of have to assert yourself in terms of how you want to be perceived going forward. If you end up just doing project coordination, managing a list of projects, then you're going to really struggle to overcome that in the future.
Absolutely. And Beat suggests that the PMO tries to manage all the projects. Absolutely agree. Simon, would you like to add your thoughts on this?
Yeah, not knowing your place is really absolutely key. Yeah, you're not just an order taker. It's not a passive role as many people think. That's a huge error. And then the other one is, the big mistake that I've seen for PMOs is that they just try and run the PMO as if it's just like one large project. It seems like a logical thing to do, but no, it's far more complex than that, and it's a lot that way. So they're the two ones I'd pick.
Great, thank you. Klemen, would you like to add some concluding remarks on this?
Well, no. I just like Patrick said. I think that the main thing is that you get your stakeholders on board, yeah. Because if you don't do that, if you don't really know what the organization needs are, and you are just assuming something, it's not good. That's one thing. And the second thing, as you want to be really proactive and not being somewhere in the back, you need a lot of times these stakeholders also be behind you, yeah. So to sell the new ideas, to sell the new strategy and so forth. So I think that this is really important that you listen before you act.
Absolutely, and I agree with everything that the panel said, and I would like to add that I also found some junior PMOs. They were very stuck either in the tools to have everything in the tool right, or they were too radical with the methodologies. And I think every project is different, and you cannot put all the constraints of a method on one project, and sometimes you have to make bold decisions, and I think sometimes there are PMOs who don't understand it, or who don't want to be adaptable, and that the organization loses a lot of time, and there's a lot of friction due to that. So we could avoid. So what a wonderful discussion we had. We could continue for hours on this. So I really take up a few points that this panel came up with, like PMOs are a lot of times underused. We should use them more for the facilitation, learning and development, career management of PMs, maybe benchmarking. PMOs can be organizational detectives. They can also level up the organization and not be rather an observer and reporter. They should be more working on alignment at the interconnections of the projects at the portfolio level, and especially on the risky decisions. They should listen to expectations of stakeholders, and the PMOs can really help in the synergy of projects and build a holistic picture. So wonderful ideas. And with this, I take this time to thank the whole panel. Thank you, everyone. And we'll just go to the backstage, and we'll come up with the next panel in a minute. So thank you, everyone. Bye.
Very much.
Thank you.